just do introduction. And I'm Anya Schoolman. I'm the Executive Director of Solar United Neighbors. And maybe I'll pass it to you, Alexis and Sukrit. You can introduce yourselves, and then you could just, everybody can just introduce themselves, tell what your interest is, why you're here. And then you can tag somebody else on the, but I gotta say, we've got two of the founding members of Mount Pleasant Solar Co-op here. We have Louise Meyer, who is one of the very early people, and then John Capozzi, who's been in the thick of our campaigning from the beginning to forever. John was the one that led our shareholder fight with Pepco that ultimately led to the community solar bill. So two of our longtime veterans are on the call. So it's great to see you both, but let's do introductions. Alexis, you want to go?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, I was super excited to see folks here tonight. My name's Alexis Miller, and I'm an outreach specialist at Solar United Neighbors, DC being one of the states that I cover for our Atlantic Southeast states. And I'll pass it over to Sukrit.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sukrit Mishra, and I'm the Assistant Program Manager for the DMV region. I look after the co-ops in this region and any other legislative stuff that's going on. It is a busy time, which is good. And yeah, and the first person I see on my screen is Amy. Off to you.
Hi, Amy Hubbard. I got involved through the co-op, the DC co-op last year, and just been coming to meetings, trying to figure out what's going on and get involved. And how about Michael?
Michael, you're still on mute.
Thought I clicked that button off. I'm Mike Levin. I'm a former Director of Regulatory Reform for the US EPA. And I've been at 5 or 6 law firms in my checkered career. I have been part of a company that developed about 50 megawatts of ground-mounted solar in Massachusetts and New Jersey. I'm Managing Director and General Counsel of Solar Shield LLC, which is developing computer-managed rooftop systems in the DC metro area. We work with a couple of different people, including Advanced Solar, who you guys may have run across, Nick Hayes, and I'm here to get updates on what's going on with the DC regs, among other things. Who's next?
Good evening, everyone. My name is On. I'm the international student. I'm studying a PhD in Auburn University, Alabama. This program is really interesting for me as I already study about the power dynamic research study. So what will happen in the future when we go more residential solar program is connected to the grid. So that might be really interesting for me, the power system dynamic study. That's why I joined here. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Steve, you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone, I'm Steve Sawicki. I'm pretty involved with the DC chapter of the Sierra Club, and we've actually just recently stood up a solar subcommittee. So we are learning more about the issues going on, making connections with other groups, been following the work of Sun for a while. So I figured join a meeting, see what you all are up to, and say hi. Yeah. Here, I could popcorn it to, let's see, how about John?
Hey, thanks for tapping me, even though I gave feedback or something. But Steve, like yourself, I used to work at EPA and have had a long checkered career since then. But Anya mentioned the shareholder thing, so I'll put in the chat the Exelon and AltaGas. You guys can buy shares and come to the meeting like I do and hassle the CEOs about what they're not doing about solar. And I went solar back in 2009 here in the city and geothermal. And so, constantly promoting this and just thrilled to, be part of this because Anya is like the most committed person and just really respect what she's been doing here. and everybody too. Thank you.
Steve, up front.
Louise, you want to go? And then Tad?
Can I throw it to Steve?
Louise, I think you're muted.
Unmute. Okay. I'm Louise Meyer. I'm a neighbor of Anya's, and I suppose John too. I went solar, the first initiative that was possible back between 2009 and 2011. And now I'm interested in upgrading. But besides that, I co-founded an NGO that promotes a technology that's very, it's solar cooking for environmental reasons in parts of the world where there is no more fuel. It's an NGO that's still working, although our funding is lacking, and we are mostly involved in refugee camps and also in Mexico. And let's see, who else could I introduce? I don't know anybody, Anya.
That's okay. Tad could go next. Tad, you need to unmute now.
Yeah, I'll be real brief. I've had a system through Sun for the last 7 or 8 years, and I went to the Green Bank and did some investigating there, and they were interested in working on a solar that I had been involved in earlier at the Avalon Theater. And in recontacting Avalon, they have decided to go forward on their own and with their finance committee. So that didn't seem to happen. So I'm neither here nor there as far as doing anything at this point. And I don't know anybody else.
Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. It says on the screen, Seydou Traoré. Traoré.
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
You want to introduce yourself? Say what your interest is, why you're here, where you're from.
Actually, I am based in Washington, D.C. So I work for Metropolitan Solar. And we do installation of solar system for residential, commercial. And in addition to the solar, we also offer a green infrastructure integration to the solar power system, which are irrigation, smart control system, greenhouse automation, and also we do the hydroponic.
Oh.
So, and on top of that, we are now also looking at to do the EV charging station.
Mm.
So we partner with EV Connect and also the Blink in order to install some of their product in Washington, D.C. So Metropolitan Solar is a 100% Washington-based solar company. And then, but we are looking at to expand. But originally myself, I'm from Burkina Faso, West Africa.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been receiving many times email about neighbor solar. So I have no idea. So I say, okay, let me take a chance to interact, to connect with good people.
Welcome. Welcome, Seydou.
Yeah, thank you. And there is somebody here, I seem like I met him before, John. The name look familiar to me. It seems like we do the park run together. the same Jones? It seems like we do the park run together. Is the same Jones?
Yes, they do. We're both 5K runners. That's us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, it's
Thank
great to have everybody here. I also worked at EPA.
It's
great to have everybody here. Thank you. I don't know what the feedback is. John used to work in the, what's it, the OCTO, the DC Office of Technology, right? DC Office of Technology, right?
right.
Anyway, so to lay out the agenda for today, we wanted to update people on the regs, what's going on with the interconnection and the Attorney General's case before the Public Service Commission. So we have a few updates there and maybe a little time for discussion. We wanted to update on the current DMV co-op that we're running, and maybe talk for a few minutes about the big win that we had yesterday in Florida on net metering, just for context, because it's national news and we were in the thick of it. And then anything else that people want to talk about. Does that sound like a good agenda for today? If anybody else has other things to add, reports back, questions, issues they want to bring up, let's get them on the list now so we make sure we have time to cover everything. Anything to add? We can add it later too. We're not allowed to do DC elections. I don't know, John did that. Because we're a 501c3, we have to keep the DC election conversation in a different forum, not an officially sponsored Solar United Neighbors C3 context. So those are after hours, let's meet for drinks or in the park kind of discussions. So as a lot of you know, we've been having a multi-year problem with Exelon Pepco on interconnection, and Sukrit, you're going to just jump in a minute when I run out of steam or make an error and you can correct me. There's a whole range of issues, and if for those of you who have reviewed the Attorney General Racine's press release, he was specifically focused on the problem of credits in DC's community solar program not being applied to the subscribers. In fact, Pepco lost 6,600 solar for all, so low income credits for subscribers. So 6,600 families were impacted. And these are the people who can least afford to be impacted. They're low income households for whom the energy bill may be the difference between food or rent or electricity. And it's a problem that's been going on for several years, and Pepco hasn't addressed it. And finally, largely because of pressure through Sun, we pressured DC Department of the Environment, and they got the Attorney General's office to jump in. But we're making the case that it is a much broader pattern of neglect and basically of trying to throttle the rooftop solar and community solar market in DC. Do you want to do a little bit of an update, Sukrit, on the interconnection issue and the OPC meeting that happened since the last time we all met?
Sure can. So to provide more context for folks who are new to this meeting, we were on a fact-finding mission around the CREF and those credits last summer. I interacted with DOE and other stakeholders. And just around that time, when we were running one of our co-ops here, the DC co-op, we started getting concerns from our co-op members where they were getting pushback from Pepco, where they were required to either downsize their system or pay significant sums for upgrading the grid or any related infrastructure in their vicinity. And then we did some fact finding and we realized that these issues were not exclusive to our co-op members, but they were actually affecting a sizable number of residential installs in the district. We established a a working group around this with other installers and CHESA, put our numbers together, compile the
Just
study.
Trade Association for Solar Industry.
Exactly. And we would meet every week, prepared the study, brought it to the attention of PEPCO. We had a meeting with them earlier this year, sometime in January or February, and we kind of hit a wall over there. Since then, we still continue to meet and try to explore the next steps, and that's where OPC came in, and that's the Office of the People's Council. And the only reason they intervened was because they got bombarded with a lot of customer concerns, and they said, what's going on here? Is this an isolated issue? Why are we getting so many complaints? And they came to us, I think this was a month ago, and they just said, help us understand how big this issue is. And every one of the installers on the call, including ourselves, we told them our numbers, we gave them more context, and they basically got overwhelmed. They understood that this is not an isolated issue. And they said, let us get back to you, let us organize all these numbers. And we're expecting to hear back from the OPC next week to understand what the next steps are. We're expecting them to either relate it to the PSC or go to PEPCO again, but still waiting to hear back. So that's where the issue stands.
And then the last piece I would add is that after the Attorney General filed this major detailed complaint with the commission, we were expecting the commission to immediately open a proceeding. I mean, in the history that we've been involved in solar, we've never had such a stern rebuke to the utility by the Attorney General or any other entity. And the Public Service Commission is dragging their feet. And first of all, there's still only 2 commissioners, right? We don't have a 3rd commission since Willie Phillips went to FERC. The mayors refused to make an appointment. The mayor's mad because the council passed a bill requiring a minimum of professional requirements for anybody who was appointed to the commission. She threatened to veto that bill. And then when she wasn't able to, when she was told that they had enough votes to override a veto, she didn't veto it, but it passed. So people think she's, I don't know, nobody knows. So we met with our lawyers at Earth Justice this week, and what they've suggested is that we're going to do a filing at the commission supporting the Attorney General, but they have also suggested that we write the DC Council and ask the DC Council who provides oversight on the Public Service Commission to force the commission into opening a formal proceeding on this. We're in a bit of a crisis, frankly, with Mary Chay's announced retirement. She's the only member of the DC Council who has consistently provided oversight and pressure on the Public Service Commission and the Department of Environment to do and implement these policies. So our plan is to share a copy of our letter with this group at least, and probably more broadly for the council once the lawyer's done, once we're finished with a draft, so that we could have a sort of citizen echoing to the council for help. But I guess let's open for questions and comments.
John's got his hand up, so John.
And Anya, I'm so excited to join this because I'm not saying I did anything on my own, but it's definitely an issue I've been really concerned about. I did have a discussion with Betty Ann Kane, who's still around, by the way. She's on the DC Retirement Board, but obviously not on the Public Service Commission. And what I asked her was, what about all this money that we had from the settlement with PEPCO Exelon merger? Why can't we use this to cover the fees that PEPCO is insisting that people pay? And she thought that was not impossible. And that's an interesting idea because basically Exelon gave that money to the commission. If they got it back, I don't think they would be too upset about that. But maybe that's a way around like fighting them, because like clearly they don't want solar. This is their way of slowing things down or stopping it. So I'm just hoping there's some innovation around. It's not that we don't want to pay. It's just that we want them to pay it through the Public Service Commission.
Yeah. Okay, I have a follow-up. We filed comments on this toe in the water proposal from the PSC to share interconnection costs up to a cap of $2,000, which is laughable considering what interconnection costs some of the projects are being assessed for. And my question is, what, if anything, does anybody know about what's happening about that since the comment period closed?
It's black box. So we also filed comments and said, you know, what is your methodology? Like sharing some costs is okay, but they had proposed in that proposed rulemaking $1 million cap
Right.
that would be covered, and then no clear methodology afterwards. So we were like, well, what's the cue? Like, is it just the first $1 million that come in, or how is it allocated? Well, how did you come up with that number? What was your, you know, what is the data that you used to arrive at that number? And there's been no response. And I think what's happened is they started that rulemaking on the sharing of the interconnection cost. And then the Attorney General came in basically accusing the utility of fraud and of ripping off ratepayers. And so it's sort of like a dual wave that hit the commission. And I think they're down one commissioner, including down the chair, and they don't know, they haven't moved. So that's exactly why our next move was DC Council, figuring that was maybe the only place where there might be some leverage. Now, maybe there's an argument for going after the mayor on the appointment, but it's just been such an unsuccessful tactic for us ever since she was elected.
Yep. No, I agree with that. That's when you don't want to take on unless there's absolutely no other paths available to try to push. All right. I can't say I'm shocked.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, the Sierra Club also issued comments on the interconnection rules. We took a pretty similar stance. It sounds like critical, just pointing out that it was completely arbitrary. And if there's any way that we can use our platform to also help echo some of that pressure on the council, like we're happy to do that and be allies there too. So we can definitely coordinate comments or whatever next move that you all have in mind.
That would be great. And we'll share a draft probably before today's Thursday, early next week, like Monday or Tuesday.
Cool.
And then people could do, you know, what they want with that. I wanted to respond one thing to John's comment about the settlement money. For those of us who were in that fight, there was this $20 or $30 million. It was like part of the craziness of that fight, because the mayor wanted the money and then DOE wanted the money. And in the end, the Public Service Commission took the money. I am actually on a commission. I can't even remember the name of it. It's called like the MedSys, Grid Transformation Commission, that's supposed to be spending that money. And it's supposed to be spent on it's the kind of things that Sadu, your company, might be doing, really innovative grid integration projects where they're using demand response and storage and distributed solar and electric vehicles. And we have a whole series of RFPs. PEPCO is not on the commission, but it's the same problem. It's the Public Service Commission is just dragging their feet and basically blocking the rollout of this commission. We should have been already issuing RFPs and awarding like these really innovative grants across the city with the money, and it's bogged down with the commission. It's depressing, sorry. Any other questions or comments about that mess? That's true. It does mean that the money is still available, and at the rate they're going, it's going to be available for a very long time because they can't get the money out the door. there's a woman at DOE who's the chair of the commission, and there's somebody from the CHESA, the Solar Industry Association. And we push so hard, to get, and there's somebody from Office of People's Counsel to get this commission to move. And then the commission moves forward, and then the Public Service drags it down and slows it down. Alexis, do you want to talk about what happened yesterday in Florida? Just because this was a downer and that would be less depressing.
Yeah, I haven't been in the weeds of things, so Anya, you might be able to add like more perspective. So I can give a quick synopsis and feel free to dive in from there. But yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar, there was a bill going through in Florida that would basically eliminate net metering and was pretty damaging on a lot of levels and would have done significant damage to the whole solar industry. We had done a ton of work behind the scenes with all of our solar advocates, with meetings in person with legislators, to behind the scenes work from our team, and as well as a big rally with folks and sending calls and emails and everything in between, and had done some work to improve the bill, but it still wasn't in a great place and was heading to the governor's desk yesterday. We got note at maybe like 1 that it was heading to the governor's desk. We were not anticipating a veto, but we're still encouraging our folks to make an effort and make a move. So we had people turning out, had an email go out, and then like an hour later got word that he had vetoed the bill. And so it had worked, and we were all shocked and amazed and so happy. So we're super excited about that win and excited to see what progress we can make from there. I'm sure we still have fights ahead of us, but it's a huge win for our Florida team and really for the whole nation to be able to see that we can fight back against a really negative policy that was being heavily pushed by the utilities that are there in Florida. But Anya, feel free to add any other context.
I mean, that was a great summary. I mean, the bill, besides ending net metering, had all these punitive charges that was going to make it essentially uneconomical to go solar. And the bill was written by Florida Power and Light, which is the utility, the regulated utility that's owned by NextEra, which is the largest renewable energy development company in the United States. And I think it had really huge significance nationally, because the feeling was, if they can do this in Florida, where there's so many jobs, it's the Sunshine State. We know that there's a national coordinated campaign that's funded by ALEC, it's funded by Koch Industries to create this idea of the myth of this cost shift or free rider idea about solar. We know that modeling shows that solar actually can decrease, if it's done right, can actually significantly decrease costs on the grid and can benefit all ratepayers. But there's this myth, this idea that you're a free rider, and it's been tested and rolled out systematically at Edison Electric Institute. And we really expected the Florida bookended with the California to sweep across the country if it had gone through. So we're hoping that it's failure. There was polling in Florida that I believe it was 86% of Republicans and 92% of Democrats supported net metering and solar. So really strong bipartisan support. And we worked really, really hard to get the messages out. So any comments or thoughts about that? You guys are so quiet.
What's the next step?
In Florida?
Yeah, is there going to be an attempt to override the veto?
I don't think there's going to be an override. I think there'll be, so one of the things that DeSantis rightly, I hate to ever be in the position of agreeing with that person, but he rightly called out was there was a provision in the bill that basically gave the utility a blank check for cost recovery without any requirement to document costs. It was just like, it was just really poorly worded language. And so he cited that as the reason for the veto, and that it would raise costs for all ratepayers. So I don't think there'll be an override. We do think there'll be another bill, but this session is over. They have a very short session. It's like a 6-week session. So we have till next January before we have to, to get ready for another bill. It was just a remarkable experience. Like, we all know about the corruption in our political system and pay to play and all that. We read about it, but our people were going to the legislature, and they were meeting with both Democrats and Republicans, and they were basically saying, we agree with you, but Florida Power and Light is our biggest political donor, and they wrote this bill, and we have to pass it. Like, they weren't even pretending that it wasn't a play to pay situation. There was no, principles being cited or anything. They were just like, sorry, they own us, they bought this, they're getting it.
Yep. Okay, so presumably NextEra's motive in doing this was because they want to own all the solar facilities that are built in Florida, right?
That would be the assumption, yeah.
Okay.
So, John, it may be a shareholder action is our only shot, because NextEra has got a big national image as a renewable energy company.
Yeah, well, it's been somewhat tarnished since they kicked out David Crane. It's been somewhat tarnished since they kicked out David Crane. I'm sorry, everybody's breaking up.
Once John unmutes, it messes up the whole sound.
John, if you drop it into the chat, though, we can read it out for you. Sorry.
Yeah, anything you want to say, John, just type it up and we'll say it out loud. My mute on. The other thing I wanted to say, Tad, you said something about the Avalon, and we've actually been working really closely with the Avalon. Most people in DC know the Avalon movie theater, and they asked us for help, and we helped provide technical assistance for them. They're doing an RFP, and we're going to be doing a solar information session. And when is it, Sukrit?
It is in the 3rd week of July. It's
In
so
July.
I believe it's the 23rd, which is a Saturday.
So at the theater, so we're going to be both promoting the fact that they're going solar with our network. It could be a really fun thing for Sierra Club to work with us on as well, because Avalon is like a beloved nonprofit community movie theater. They're going solar. So there'll be some events there. And part of what the event is just getting people to donate to help them buy their solar system. But also we're doing a citywide solar co-op for people that want to go solar on their own buildings. And we'd love any individuals or groups that wanted to help work with us on that, or work with the Avalon on that. Sukrit, do you want to give a little update about the co-op now, where we're at, and give the little larger context, the DMV co-op and then the DC co-op? And
Sure can. So the DMV co-op is officially known as the Capital Area Co-op, and we formally launched it on April 1st this year. To provide more context, this is the 2nd edition of this co-op. Our traditional co-ops is just one co-op in a specific set of counties, but last year, since the DMV region is so condensed and packed together, we decided to give this concept a try where we are running 3 co-ops at the same time and branding it together. So the DMV co-op is made up of 3 co-ops where the first one is a DC co-op. The other one is in Montgomery County in Maryland and surrounding counties. And the third co-op is in Arlington and other parts of Northern Virginia. And it was pretty successful last year. We eventually had 260 folks go solar as a part of that co-op. And this year, so far, we have 90 people signed up for our Arlington co-op, around 30 people for the DC segment, and around 50 people for the Maryland segment. The next step in the co-op is to actually select an installer. So for the Maryland segment, we have 6 installers who have bid on the co-op, and the selection committee is tonight. It actually just started 10 minutes ago. For the DC group, we'll be doing the selection committee on Wednesday next week, and we had 5 installers bid on that co-op. And for Arlington, we had 4 installers bid. So by the end of next week, we will have selected an installer for each of the co-ops, and we are actively growing the co-ops until the end of August. And that's where you guys can help. You guys can spread the word around these co-ops. And I think, Alexis, thank you. That's the link to the co-op. So you can spread the word around that co-op. And we will also be doing a few info sessions. We're doing one info session in partner with the DOEE in the 2nd week of June. And as Anya said, the second info session around the DC co-op will be with Avalon Theater in the 3rd week of July. And what usually happens is once we do these info sessions, more people actually join the co-op in the immediate aftermath, and it grows organically. So in the meantime, if you can spread the word, that would be great.
Any questions about or comments about that?
None? I guess I explained it really well, or?
Sadhu said, background on Solar United Neighbors. I mean, I'll try to do it short. So Solar United Neighbors started in 2017 when a group of neighbors in Mount Pleasant got together and tried to go solar. And Louise is one of the neighbors who's on this group.
Anya, you meant 2007?
Huh?
You said 2017.
17. No, 7, you're right. No, when was it? It was 2007.
Yes.
Oh, is that right? Anyway, I have COVID. I'm just recovering, so I excuse myself. And took us 2 years. It was pure volunteer effort, learning, and in the end, 45 houses went solar. And then over time, other groups started. John is in Ward 5, and he organized a group out there. We had a Ward 8 group, we had a Ward 4 group, we had a Palisades group. We had several Capitol Hill groups. And then we used to meet at the Reeves Center, which used to be the main DC government building in the old days on 14th and U. We all came together and we decided to be Solar United Neighbors. Actually, it was slightly different, but anyway, Solar United Neighborhoods. And then we sort of became a nonprofit, and that was about 5 years after the start. And now Solar United Neighbors is a national nonprofit. So we have over 300,000 members across the United States. And we work on helping people go solar, helping people learn about solar, and then advocacy around solar. But we work with industry, we work with the environmental movement, but we're really the national organization for solar owners. So like a user group for solar owners. And then we have active programs in about 12 states where we have staff on the ground. And DC, we don't actually have staff on the ground anymore because nobody funds us in DC, and we're just too much troublemakers in DC. So, whereas in other states, we actually work a lot with cities and mostly cities. And I guess one other thing is in the last 18 months, we've also, and it really grew out of our work in DC. I mean, the work in DC's always had this equity focus. So in the very first group, Mount Pleasant, our motto was solar should be affordable and accessible to everyone. That was like our goal. And I remember we did a video in my kitchen where that's what we were saying. I think Louise was in the video. And so we worked on first building the residential solar market. We helped pass the several bills that created the really robust SREC market in DC. That's what makes DC such an attractive market. And then we worked on community solar, and that's when John came in, when we did the shareholder resolution, when we ended up meeting with the CEO of Pepco at the time. This was before the merger. He was like, what do you want? And we asked for a bunch of things, but one of the main things we asked for a map on interconnection, because it's always been this mystery of where you can and can't do interconnection in DC. And we asked for a good faith negotiation by Pepco on the community solar bill. And he promised me that they would get it. We said, look, Pepco has a track record. Normally you don't engage, and then the night before the bill, you go to the council with all your high-priced lobbyists and tell people the sky is falling and kill any legislation. We don't want you to do that. We want you in a work room, in a technical working group, and until we get to yes. And they did it. And that's how we got the community solar bill. It was absolutely because of the shareholder resolution effort that John set up. So then we passed community solar, and then we worked on solar for all. And so solar for all was the last stage on sort of the equity trajectory, because even with community solar, making solar available to people who don't have their own roofs and allowing people to have subscriptions in their apartment or their rental, there's still a lot of low-income families. And so what a Solar for All bill did was take the fines that Pepco was paying for not meeting their targets on solar and have it 100% allocated to lower the bill by 50% of every single low-income household in DC, which is a little over 100,000 households. And that's through both community solar as well as rooftop solar. And there's programs, single family programs and community solar programs. This community solar program is the one we started this meeting talking about, because while this really robust program is going on to put solar and create subscriptions for free for low-income households, the Pepco hasn't been applying those credits. So to 6,600 families, Pepco's been sitting on the credits. So that was one of the first agenda item. And then on the single family, for several years, we ran that program and we learned a ton. And we no longer run that program because DC government decided to give it to the DC Sustainable Energy Utility. But we have now taken that learning and we have launched low-income single-family solar programs in more than 20 cities. So we're running low-income solar programs in Phoenix and Houston and Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Duluth and Minneapolis and Puerto Rico. And I'm sure there's some other ones that I forgot. In Harrisonburg, Virginia, and Florida. So that's kind of our history. And then we mobilized just regular old people like the people on this call to do advocacy. We often work, there's a couple of industry people on this call. We're often doing like an inside outside game with industry being the inside game, paid lobbyists in the state house, and then us doing the outside game where we're like mobilizing people, demonstrations, press, bringing attention, bringing public pressure on the issue. Okay, now I'm going to start coughing if I don't shut up.
I think that was a good overview, but if you have other questions, you can drop them into the chat. We're happy to answer them. I don't know, Anya, if you saw John's comments and want to chat about that at all.
you want to read it out loud?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Let me just scroll so I can see it all. John's just sharing more about shareholder activism and talking about FPL, which is Florida Power and Light. Their main utility is saying they're now trading at $6.28 per share and is paying out a whopping 7.17% dividend. So any shareholder can attend the annual meeting and ask a question to the leadership of the company.
Any other comments, questions from anybody? It's just a good time to talk. Are people looking for just information, or people looking to get more involved and looking for projects to do? We don't want to assume when Tad left, but I know he was sort of more interested in the project, but sometimes it takes a little while to figure out what that is.
Well, I'll go ahead. I'm still trying to learn stuff. I've been working a little bit with the Citizens Climate Lobby, and I learn a lot from coming to these meetings, and I kind of busy for the next month or so, but I am working on, thinking about what are the ways that I can help out. And maybe one way would be to do more promotion for the solar co-op this year, especially because I was involved with it last year. But I'm sort of still on that kind of like, let me listen and learn stage, but I'm here.
That's awesome. And if you get to the point where you're ready, Alexis is your person. Just let her know. We have materials. We can, whatever you need.
Great. Okay, thanks. That's real helpful. Thanks.
Anybody else? Steve, do you want to talk for a sec about what the Sierra Club's doing? Like, what's this new solar committee? I didn't know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was just going to say. Like, hope we can definitely keep an open line of communication and be allies, like joint campaigns, joint events, anything like that. So the way Sierra Club is organized, we've got chapters for each state. Each of those chapters also has a series of committees. So there's a clean energy committee, and now the clean energy committee has a solar subcommittee. I can draw the diagram here. Basically, it was just kind of a hole in what people were focused on, and so we're trying to it's obviously a really important issue, and so we're trying to bring some more focus and resources to it. So we've got a cohort of people who are excited to do more about solar. Sierra Club, we do a lot of mostly advocacy based work, so it's a lot of commenting on the rules as they come out, participating in hearings and testifying, the budget review, things like that. We also do have the ability to endorse candidates, so we'll do that as well. And so, but yeah, it's a blank slate now, and like I said, we've got a lot of people who are interested. So find ways to build relationships within the solar community, as well as stay up to date on issues as they come out. I can definitely, if we have an email chain coming over this, send over some information as well. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
I would just want to make sure if you got the email for people on this call, I want to make sure I get a copy of the draft to the city council.
We can definitely do that, right, Alexis? It's pretty straightforward. We could also, if you just shoot Alexis an email, we'll be making a more detailed filing at the commission. And there's Alexis's email, amiller@solarunitedneighbors.org. That's obviously public, but we're happy to share drafts once we're got a half decent draft so that people can do their own versions, And we really believe that as many diverse voices as possible is the way to make an impact with the commission. And I don't know, are you, Michael, or Sadhu, are you guys involved with CHESA, the trade association?
No,
So, I mean, they're going through recent staff changes, but they're very professional. It's not expensive to join. We encourage all solar industry, and they're, honestly better than us tracking the details. They have a regular legislative call for DC, Maryland, and Virginia, right? Sukrit attends for us, but they used to be called MDVCA. They changed their name. I don't remember why.
It's basically to
How do you
account for
spell- how do
storage
you-
now. So
how do
it's
you spell
Chesapeake
it?
Solar and Storage Association.
Ah,
I
it's-
can drop it in the chat. Just give me
Oh,
one.
okay.
And so for members, they do like a monthly legislative briefing, and they represent the industry, and they're good at it. And they've got new leadership, but when we started in this, it was like an all volunteer thing, and it wasn't very reliable, but they have really professionalized in the last few years. So there's their web link in here. They're really a great source and a great asset in this work.
Anya, can I ask John to repeat what he said about shareholder activism? What does FLP actually mean? Pardon
That's
me?
Florida Power and Light.
Ah,
That's related to the Florida story. Florida Power and Light is the Pepco of Florida,
okay.
except for they're giant.
And is he invested as a shareholder?
He must be.
Uh-huh.
Jobs everywhere.
It sounds very, okay. Because at the beginning, you said, John, that you were also have shares at Alta Gas, which is Washington Gas and Exelon. And you recommend that we buy them. Any comment, John?
John says he's not in Florida yet, but he will buy soon. He's been looking at it.
Yeah, I guess if it's paying a 7% dividend, I want it regardless of how much I want to hassle them. But the idea is that you can attend the meeting. If you own over $3,000 worth of the stock and have it for a year, you can put a shareholder initiative, which is what Anya sort of alluded to, what we did in the past. So that takes a big, much bigger commitment. But just go to the meeting and questioning these people, that just doesn't happen very often, and it's easy to do.
It really made quite an impact when we did it with Pepco and Pepco. They were a smaller utility then. It was before the merger, but they were not used to having ratepayers show up at their board meeting.
Right. And I would tell you that I've been to a couple Exelon meetings since then. Chris Crane, who runs the company, particularly doesn't like me because what I do is I talk about I want better returns and higher dividends because nuclear power is not going to help us in the future, and they really hate that. So it is impactful to go to these meetings. A group from Quakers from Philadelphia show up because they're mad at their utility, and everybody runs the company comes to these meetings. I mean, they do hear you. It doesn't mean they're going to do it, but it certainly means that they're going to at least know that real people care about these issues. So it might affect.
Any closing thoughts or questions? Comments?
nope, I'm good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. It was really nice talking to you all tonight, and
Thank
really
you.
appreciate people taking the time out.
Nice
And
meeting you all.
really appreciate people taking the time out. And
Everybody, so yeah.
be in touch.
Thanks, everyone.
Right.
Be in touch.
Take care. Sorry about the audio issues.
Sadhu, I see your question, and we do meet once a month, and I'll do a follow-up email after this for everyone who had RSVP'd and attended, and I'll send you the link so you can RSVP for next month as well.
Thank you so much. That is a really good, and thank you for the good work. That's very impressive.
We also have a listserv. If you're interested in joining, it's you want to it's Solar DC at Google Groups.
Okay.
And you could there's no waiting. You could just post a question. There's almost always someone there will give an answer.
Okay.
There's a lot of people on the listserv. You can do it. It's not too much email.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah, have a good night.